when I think about my faith story, there absolutely was a point where I accepted Jesus as my Savior, and I can remember that, and I happened to be very young at the time. But for me, my story is so much more about where I've come from since that moment. And so I don't necessarily have the before. I know I was a rotten little child, and I knew I picked on my little sister all the time, and just, I knew I was a sinner when I came to my mom, and I had heard in a Sunday school class that Jesus died for my sins and loved me more than anything. And that just struck a chord on that day, and I sat, crawled up in my mom's lap, and I said, I want to accept Jesus into my heart. And I remember that, and I still look to that as the day that Jesus entered into my life. But since then, obviously, since I was so young and then growing up in a Christian home, so much of the years in between that have just been trying to figure out how to exactly live like a Christian, because it can no longer be a name only. And just because I grew up in a Christian home and grew up in the church doesn't mean that I had that personal walk with Christ. I had to live it out on a daily basis and pursue Christ. And a lot of that was just figuring out who I was, to figure out the areas that God had in store for me to grow in Him, and maybe struggle along the way, and the talents that He blessed me with, and to discover, I guess, what my identity was with Christ. And then when the storms hit, exactly how to continue my faith and to live it out, because that is, so much of what life is just actually walking with Christ, and not just saying that word, but actually figuring out what that phrase means in your own life, and the things that you have to do and allow Christ to do in your life. The gospel is my life, and I'm nothing without Christ, absolutely nothing. Recognizing that when you walk along somebody else in life who doesn't know the Lord, that you're not better than they are just because you bear the title of Christian. The only thing that you have that is of value is Christ in your life, and that's what the gospel means. So just being reminded daily that I don't have it all together, that I'm not perfect, that I mess up, that even and this has been a really tough one to learn over the years, I would say, is just even when I try really hard at something, I fail. And that's what the gospel is all about, because it's at that point that Christ picks up and says, well, this is what I'm calling you to, and I'm going to carry you the rest of the way and ensure that you can only praise me for what's accomplished in your life. Stay the course. Don't give up on what was new and real to you at one point in your life, because it continues to be new and real, even if you don't necessarily feel that. Because I think over the years, feelings can kind of come and go and even be misleading. And I think at that point in our lives where we've been walking for a while with Christ, however long that is, I think everybody goes through times where things get hazy, and you can get apathetic about your faith, and then suddenly God seems very far away. And it doesn't mean that you're not saved. It doesn't mean that you're not His. But I would encourage them to go back to where, talking about Psalm 51 in small group the other night, and praying the prayer that David prayed, restore to me the joy of my salvation, and seek hard after God and go after that idea. Use the phrase a lot in church, preach the gospel to yourself, because that's what it's about. And if you pray that prayer earnestly, God will absolutely come and find you. He's not hiding Himself from you. It's a matter of taking yourself out of the equation, getting out of the way, humbling yourself, and letting God speak to you again.